Maneva na sema PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
So I said that, you see, let me tell you.
Was it out of place?
You didn't let me land.
No,
but
then
under the NPP,
you created an impression that this was a politically exposed person who was handed over the project to handle.
Okay, let me give you a bit of context
that's
so that you are able.
That's
you see,
unfair.
Moro and the NPP, we were under the local government ministry. So the assumption is that every donor-funded project was supposed to be run by the Social Investment Fund under NPP. Okay. Under the same NPP, there were 3 donor-funded projects under local government. Soku, secondary cities, Gaslep. All these were supposed to be implemented by Social Investment Fund. But some way, somehow, Miracle Sabuaji was the coordinator for the secondary cities.
Was he not a staff of the government?
No. You see, I'm not saying that.
But the question you need to ask yourself is Ministry of Local Government under John Mahama implementing any project which your office could have implemented?
No, we don't have any. Ministry of Local Government doesn't have any project yet. Under the
I like the fact that you say yet. But you see, what you need to accept is the fact that there will be a bit of some turf war within government agencies. People who want to implement projects. I only brought in the point that find a ministry, lobby and be placed under a ministry where you can fall on for support. So to now bring in Miracle Sabuaji,
that was just an example.
Miracle Sabuaji was doing that as a private person somewhere.
That was just an example.
This was a government official who was given a responsibility to perform. He performed that responsibility, and you blame him for that?
No,
I think it's unfair.
I was giving an example of the reasons why SIF as an institution
we will
go, has been deprived of its core mandate and the reason for statutory intervention. Okay. If it were left to me, Abass as CEO alone, presently, I would say I'm doing fine with the project that is coming on stream. At least it is it's supposed to be more than $50 million. But I'm looking at sustainability. Right. What happens after Abass, Nurudeen, when a CEO comes and is unable to get a project ahead? So it is not necessarily about me. It's about how we are able to make SIF a perpetual succession that will sit and perform its mandate of poverty alleviation till the end of time.
I want us to move on, but if you indulge me 5 seconds. But one important thing he has to also take on board is the fact that the NDC young men and women who campaigned across the length and breadth of our country, if you go on social media, and I'm sure his phone, if he checks on his phone, they are on daily basis asking for employment. They believe that the promise to give them jobs, government has failed woefully. He's talking about the fact that he doesn't have a PR in his office and he's doing PR himself. You are communications officer. The Ashanti region constituency communication officers, among others. Why are you not employing them? Okay. Let's make progress.
Let's move on. Fifi is now veering into.
The finance minister has been engaging not just labor, but he's also been engaging Ghanaians, and he's been expressing some difficulties that the government has had to encounter, or as the government is facing, in doing 2 things: in increasing the base pay for workers and also recruiting a lot more people into the public sector. I want us to watch this video briefly.
The reason why there's the need to take a closer look at Ghana's compensation are that the 2025 non-oil tax revenue of 183 billion Ghana cedis was only enough to pay for statutory transfers and debt service. After paying statutory funds such as District Assembly Common Fund, Get Fund, National Health Insurance, and debt service, what was left was not enough to settle Ghana's compensation bill. In fact, government of Ghana had to borrow 17 billion Ghana cedis to augment the compensation bill. Your Excellency, I thank you.
All right, so that's the finance minister. He said this at a meeting with organized labor. The president himself was there, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, where the finance minister was outlining the growing pressure on the public sector wage bill on government finances. So as you did hear him say that the Ghana spends 44% of its total tax revenue. I'm not talking this tax, not non-tax, tax revenue. So non-tax will be levies, fees, charges, and so on and so forth. I mean, royalties and so on. Those ones will come out of non-tax. But this is tax. I mean, when you go, you buy something, you pay tax. When we collect all that money, we spend 44% on paying workers of this country. Now, we're told that this significantly exceeds the ECOWAS recommended threshold of 35%. We've all agreed. Don't use more than 35% of the taxes you collect in paying your workers. But we are hovering around 44%. Now, he's also revealed that out of the total tax revenue of 183 billion in 2025, statutory obligations, including transfers to DACF, Get Fund, NHIL, and debt servicing, consumed 122.1 billion cedis, leaving only 61.9 billion available for capex, or say for infrastructure. Now, if you look at the infrastructure deficits that Ghana has, I mean, this one pales into insignificance. It's a drop in the ocean. So the government's wage bill alone, it says, amounts to 78.9 billion, creating a financing gap that forced the state to borrow approximately 17 billion cedis just to meet salary obligations. Now, Dr. Forson is emphasizing that the combined burden of wages, debt servicing, and statutory transfers exceeded total tax revenue, effectively crowding out other critical expenditure. He's warning that under the current fiscal conditions, the government lacks the financial space to adequately invest in essential infrastructure such as schools, hospitals, and roads. The finance minister notes that while fair remuneration remains a constitutional obligation, the current trajectory of public sector compensation poses a significant structural risk to fiscal sustainability and service delivery. He's stressing the need for careful management of the wage growth alongside broader fiscal reforms to restore balance and create room for development spending. All right, so here we are. But of course, the finance minister says that the government will still have to recruit people into the public sector. Let me start with Abass. Have you always known this?
Yeah. Moro, I think every Ghanaian who has followed economic metrics would not be surprised by this revelation by the finance minister. In fact, Moro, one particular budget item that poses serious fiscal risk to us as a country is the ballooning wage bill. And this was even heightened in the period immediately after the implementation of the single spine salary structure in 2009,
right,
where we had to spend 70% at a time of our tax revenue just on the wage bill. 70% in 2009, 2010, when the single spine salary structure, 70% of our tax revenue. With the passage of time, we've done quite well with revenue mobilization, and now the percentage of tax revenue as a component of compensation is 44%, which is still quite high looking at the ECOWAS threshold. What this means is that a huge component of our tax revenue is going to pay salaries of public sector workers. Then the question a lot of people are asking is that, are we getting value for money for this ballooning wage bill in terms of productivity? Are the production levels commensurate with this increase in public sector wage bill? Because the current levels of the public salary structure, as unequal as it is unsustainable. It will, if not corrected, it will plunge us back into that economic mess that we found ourselves in 2022 as a result of the fiscal recklessness of the past administration. And the statistics put forth by the finance minister was quite revealing that as a country in 2025, our non-tax oil revenue, that is the tax our non-oil tax revenue, our tax revenue minus the royalties we received from the oil companies stood at 183 billion. And out of that, if you take statutory transfer, that is payment to the District Assembly Common Fund, payment to Get Fund, payment to the National Health Insurance Levy, and our debt servicing obligation, i.e. the interest payment we pay on loans we have secured previously, and the amortization of the principal themselves, very little is left for compensation to pay government workers. Said that government had to go and borrow 17 billion in order to pay public sector workers. How sustainable is this model? Because every economist will tell you that if government want to borrow, it must borrow to invest, not borrow and spend on consumption, because nothing productive comes out of consumption, or the benefit we receive from payment of compensation, some are intangible, some are long-term, like the teachers we are paying. We don't receive anything in tangible terms, but in the long term, they contribute to the human resource development of the country.
Right.
But government must borrow to invest in the productive sectors of the economy so that the economy will expand, more revenue will be generated, and then the workers who contributed in generating that huge public pie will have a fair share. So I think Honorable Atuforsen has been very forthright. He's been very candid by letting the people know that it is not as a result of sheer wickedness that he is churning out some of the policies or putting in place some of the fiscal restraints he's putting in place. But if we don't go on the path of fiscal discipline, our economy will end up collapsing. And I saw another statistic that is quite disturbing, that in just 2024, the review of conditions of services alone added 2.4 billion to the wage bill.
Whoa.
2024, with the Ministry of Education leading the charge with 1.3 billion. 1.3 billion out of the 2.4 billion that was added to the wage bill. In 2025, we added 6 billion to the wage bill, and the Ministry of Interior alone added 5.7 billion. Listen to this.
Yeah.
6 billion added to the wage bill in 2025, and 5.7 is from the Ministry of Interior. Where is this coming from? Is this recruitment that we are talking about? Recruitment into the government agencies that has become a major issue now. Out of 6 billion added, 5.7 billion. And the difficult aspect of it is that if you go to some of these immigration offices at our immigration centers, and you know some of them are going to work once a week.
Once a week?
Once a week.
And
at most twice a week, because they are overcrowded.
I mean, there's no space.
Yes.
For people to sit and work.
I'm telling you, go to most of the offices. Immigration officers that are supposed to go to work 30 days a week to give government value for money. Some are going to work once a week. Some are going to work twice a week. And they are being paid. They have become a burden on the national purse. And most of these reasons, the reasons for these recruitments were largely political. We can't continue to allow political consideration to throw the fiscal structure the finance ministry has created off balance. We must get to a point where we bite the bullet and let the people know the financial situation we inherited, tie our belt ourselves as government, and urge organized labor and various political actors to also tie their belt. Recently, you go around, you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, finance minister is not doing this, finance minister is not doing that, finance minister is not giving clearance for this." But in law, there is a basic principle that you can't give what you don't have. Moro, if you don't have a phone, can you give me a phone? If we don't have the money, how do we spend? It is the same thing the NPP did that led us into a fiscal deficit of 15%, an inflation of 54% in 2022, an interest rate of 28%. That threw the economic gains we made post IMF off balance. Are we expecting the NDC? And the reason why Ghanaians voted for the NDC is because they believe the NDC led by John Mahama were preaching a departure from the norm. So if you are an NDC person and you campaign for John Mahama and you led the charge to get Mahama elected, know that President Mahama came on the back of serious reforms that will give the economy some respite, that will give the economy some breathing space to at least invest in productive sectors so that we expand the economy so that more people can be employed. Then there are other issues that I think we need to look at. And this has to do with investment in productive sectors like provision of road, provision of schools, provision of hospitals. You know, in economics, there is something the economists call opportunity cost. If you are spending all your tax revenue on the wage bill, it means very little is left for roads to be constructed. Very little is left for our hospitals to be equipped. Very little is left for schools to be built. But we are the same people. I saw Ame Aldebra on TV asking government to construct their road. Where is the money supposed to come from? When we are expanding all our tax revenue on the wage bill, and we are not getting so much by way of productivity. So I think as a people, we must begin to accept that we are in a deep economic crisis. As a country, we don't produce much. We are import dependent. So most of the activities, economic activities that could help grow our economy has been outsourced. All we have to rely on is our tax revenue. And there are a lot of leakages in our tax generation system. And recently, the expose at the port, where at just one instance, the state was losing 85 million Ghana cedis, 850 billion old Ghana cedis, just at one instance. So imagine if these people are able to do this 3 times a week, even 3 times a week, and 15 times in a month. Imagine the amount of money the state is losing. So we must begin to plug the loopholes in our tax generation system. It is in this regard that I believe the directive by the Ministry of Finance and Customs Division to ban the land transit of certain items like rice, cooking oil, spaghetti, that has been used as a ruse to deprive the state of much needed tax revenue. It is in this regard that I think is a step in the right direction. We must also look at widening the tax net. The only way we can generate more revenue now, we have only 2 ways to generate more revenue. One, introduction of tax, which is a no-no. Widening the tax net, which is quite feasible and a possibility. How do we widen the tax net such that those in the informal sector, 85% of the Ghanaian economy is led by the informal sector. It's 20% of the Ghanaian economy, less than 20% of the Ghanaian economy is formalized. But it is in the informal sector that the mechanism for raking in more tax is very difficult. Apart from the indirect taxes or the value-added tax they pay on the goods they buy, in terms of direct tax, we are very much limited. So as a country, we need to widen the tax net, rake in more revenue, cut waste. And I think Ato Forson has done quite well. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has done well in cutting the waste that we experienced from the previous administration, where at a certain point in time, we had 125 ministers. Now we have about 58 ministers. By this singular act, government has saved the nation about 9 billion Ghana cedis in a period of 8 years. At the various MMDAs, measures have been put in place to ensure that people cannot sit at their own backyard and saddle government with financial obligation. The introduction of commitment controls, the introduction of the commitment authorization, where you have to submit your annual work plan and budget to finance first to ensure that whatever procurement activity you want to do is within budget.
Okay.
The activity is subject to anti-corruption audit to ensure that it is free from any scandal and all of that. All of that has contributed in ensuring that government remain within its lane. Government spends within its fiscal.
Actually, yesterday in Parliament, there was a big debate about the value for money law.
Yes.
Which
the Finance Minister want to introduce. All these are part of measures to ensure that public sector workers or political appointees do the right thing, because human beings by nature are very stubborn. If you leave them to their own devices, they wouldn't want to do the right thing. And President Mahama wants to take one bold move to address the salary disparities in the public sector by the setting up of the Independent Emolument Commission.
Right.
I think it is a step in the right direction that we should all support, because I don't understand why somebody who is part of Article 71 office holders will be given ex gratia every 4 years. So if you are a medical doctor, an ordinary medical doctor...
Please do well to learn so that I can bring
I'm coming. If you are an ordinary medical doctor, you perform the same service as the doctor of the president. By virtue of the fact that you are part of the article, you receive an end of service package that is sometimes 100 times that it is. These salary disparities create a lot of distortions. And immediately, the Salary and Emoluments Committee reviews salary upward. It triggers a cascading effect of demands from labor that if the economy is good enough to sustain your own upward adjustment, then it should be good enough for us to also. So I think we need a well-structured, equal structure that would put all of us, from the president to the security, the least paid security, on the same salary structure and streamline. You know, some of the challenges that we face as a country is the allowances. The allowances are sometimes even more than the pay. And there are other state institutions like the Judicial Service, the Electoral Commission, that sit at their own backyard, determine their own conditions of service without recourse to the finance minister, and later burden the consolidated fund. So I think anything that would be a charge on the consolidated fund, the finance minister should be in the known, so that he will be in a position to determine whether, given the fiscal arrangement we have, we will be able to absorb such. So I think the labor demands are legitimate. In conclusion, the salary structure is a bit unequal. There is the need for it to be streamlined within the fiscal arrangement, so that we will not go back to that vicious cycle of economic boom and bust, where the NDC comes and sets the economy right, and the NPP will come and throw everything off balance. Thank you very much.
Okay. Fifi.
Yes, thank you. Abass said one thing, and I want to re-emphasize what he said. After 1 year of the resetting agenda, Abass on this show says, and I quote, "We are in deep economic crisis." These were the words of Abass, that we are in deep economic crisis, and that is his verdict.
Deep economic crisis because you are misquoting me. You are what I said is that
listeners, viewers are watching us. They heard you.
But if you have to borrow 70 million to pay public sector workers, are we not in crisis? And the crisis was caused by the reckless economic mismanagement of the past administration.
I want to just
don't let him misquote me. If you want to quote me, put me in the proper context.
I only said. I'll make my point. I'm just starting. I'm only re-emphasizing what he said, that we are in deep economic crisis. The finance minister, the last 1 year, they've been told that he's done a fantastic job. All the indicators are showing that we are doing very well as a country. So if we are doing well as a country after 1 year, and then a member of the team refers to the situation as one of deep crisis, that is worrying.
But that's relative to the issue of the wage bill.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
The issue of the wage bill, which the finance minister talked about, I like the question you asked in starting this conversation. Is this new? Is Atuforsen now realizing that this is the situation we find ourselves in as a country? Bear in mind, Atuforsen once served as a deputy finance minister. After that, he became the ranking member for the Finance Committee of Parliament until his elevation to the position of the minority leader in Parliament. So this cannot be a new thing to Ato-Forsen. So if it comes out today to talk about it as though it's something new, we are now realizing that indeed the wage bill was high. It's surprising because Ato-Forsen has been in the seat at least for over a year. He has been in Parliament reviewing all the finance indicators of our country. So this cannot be something new for him to act as though it's something that he did not anticipate. And now he's confronted with that. So this is not something new. And he should not pretend as though, well, he has done all the right things and something unfortunate, unexpected has happened and he has to deal with it. We talked about the commitment authorization which government is implementing. And at the time, and you know, it is actually the finance ministry that is tasked to deal with that. The finance minister, who is expecting all the MNDAs to come to him and say that before you spend, I must check and be sure that we have funds before you can spend, says that, well, he has to go for extra 17 billion before he can pay the people. Was he not aware of that? How did he start? Was that not captured in his budget? So the question you ask yourself is that, how loyal is he to that commitment authorization arrangement he has in his own office? How loyal is he to that arrangement? Because if he was that loyal to that arrangement, this should not come to us as a surprise. And Nurudeen said something very, very, very troubling. He said that the officers with the immigration service, instead of going to work 5 times a week, they only go to work once a week and they are paid. And government is continuously paying these people. Are you aware that government at the moment is in the process of hiring more people into the immigration service? So if we know as a government that people are earning income for no work done, and it is just because there's no work for them to do, why is government employing more people to also go and sit idle and for us to pay them? At the time we are saying that it is not necessary to add on. He said it's because of political consideration. That is why the NPP administration hired these people and they are sitting idle getting paid. But today, his government is employing more people. So what is the justification for that decision? The more worrying is the fact that when government has said that, well, we are going to employ 5,000 people or we are employing 10,000 people because that is what budget has been provided for. The moment the president realized the reaction after the fact that only 5,000 people are getting employed and then already we've sold false for about 500,000 people, the president says that I have given instructions for an extra number of people to be employed to go and do what? If you say that there's no job for them, why are you giving instructions for more people to be employed? To go and sit idle and get paid and come to us and complain about the wage bill? That is recklessness. That is irresponsibility. And that's the wrong thing to do as a government. I am not saying that those people don't have work to do. You are telling us that they don't have anything to do. They are only getting paid. They are getting paid because of a political pressure from your party members. And you are not only employing, you are actually asking that more people are employed to go and sit idle and get paid. For your finance minister to come and complain to Ghanaians that, hey, I'm in trouble. I don't have money to pay the people. I have to go for 17 billion to pay them. This is not only going to worsen the situation, this is going to create more problem. What the president did is not solving the problem, but rather creating more problem. Yes, we agree to the fact that the 5,000 was not sufficient because you have a lot more young people who are ready to work. And then there's a need for us to create opportunity for these young people. The fact that you add 5,000 more, it has not solved the problem. More, it's 5,000 out of 500,000. So the complaints will still be there. But the truth is that this extra 5,000 you are adding to it is going to exacerbate the problem you already have on the wage bill. So sorry to ask, what was the reasoning behind the decision by the president to add on? Do I borrow Abass's assertion that is just out of political pressure? But would this be able to also address the pressure that you are getting from your party members? But one thing you need to note, I remember when the budget debate was ongoing in Parliament, the former Information and Works and Housing Minister, Kojo Oponkroma, talked about the fact that government has decided to review some taxes. And those taxes, government was commending itself that, well, they've done a fantastic job by taking off those taxes. Without taking into consideration the gap it creates in government's revenue and government's ability to perform some responsibilities of government, for example, paying employees and then also taking infrastructure projects. And of course, investing in projects that will rather help us expand our economy. But the government said, well, what Kojo was saying, what the minority was saying, was not the way to go, and they had done the right thing. So you ask yourself today, are they happy with the decision they took? Has it given us results? Has it improved us as a country? Are we in a better situation at the moment? The answer, I'm sure, is obvious for us to know that it was not a prudent decision for the government to take. Another thing we need to note.
Well, Fifi, before you move to your next issue, you know, the issue about the taxes and the removal of same, as the NDC advocated in opposition, and they had promised, you know, the electorate or Ghanaians that when they come, they will take out some taxes that they believe were nuisance taxes. Now, two things. I recall at the time, it wasn't just the NDC, there was Labour. There was the Ghana Employees Association. There were all kinds of labour groups that came out to say, for instance, if you take e-levy, there are serious issues with e-levy because they felt it was counterproductive. You want to grow the digital space. Why then do you tax people for wanting to grow that when at the same time you want to grow the digital space or the digital economy? Now, my question to you is that, and again, before I even ask the question, I recall that at the time, the NPP had also agreed that rather than piling up more levies and taxes, it was always important to grow the tax base or to broaden it in order to capture some other segment of society who are not paying direct tax, not indirect tax. I don't think that in principle you disagree with the NDC in that, which is instead of piling up more taxes, rather broaden it and rope in more people. As Abass Nurudeen has just said when he was making his case much earlier. Do you disagree that rather than piling up more levies and taxes, grow the tax base and bring in more people into the tax net?
Well, it is the duty of government to raise revenue. Use that revenue to develop the state. Have they done that? I think the conversation on this table is one that depicts the fact that government has not been able to raise enough revenue to execute programs and projects of the government. And that's what we are discussing. There's some praises the finance minister has been receiving that he's managed the economy so well. Do you know that it is part of the responsibilities of the finance minister to ensure revenue generation as a country?
Absolutely.
So if the finance minister is complaining that his responsibility of raising revenue for the country, he has not lived up to that expectation, are we to blame the NPP for it? Because he sought to create the impression, well, the recklessness of the NPP, the usual rhetorics of the NDC. But it is the responsibility of the finance ministry, it is the responsibility of government to raise revenue. So if you tell us as a people that, well, I'm going to expand the tax brackets, getting more people, and then let others have a bit of relief. Before you expand it, You take off the taxes that were already in existence and fail to expand it. Have you solved the problem? Because if indeed, yes, it was nuisance tax, yes, it was not necessary, so you have to take it off. But what do you substitute that with? It is for us rather to say that our roads will not be constructed. Our schools will stay in a deplorable state. But talking about employment, the people who are today saying that the wage bill is too big and then the people are not even giving us value for money, are these not the persons who told us that one job, 3 people will have to do it? One job, 3 shifts, 3 people. They are yet to even start that. That has not kicked in yet. The 24-hour economy, where we are, in fact, it is the reason why a lot of the young people in our country were clamoring for the NDC. Bring them on. Why not? There will be one job, 3 people. People will go to work from 8 to 5, others will go from 5 to midnight, and then others will start from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. This is yet to kick in.
Okay.
So, and already we are complaining. I guess it is a signal to every young person watching us on this network that the NDC is telling us, you know what, we don't have space for you. There's nothing for you to do. We are not going to create any extra job for you to benefit, because already we are choked and they are not in a position to create extra jobs for the people of this country. But one thing you referred to was the value for money office, which yesterday came up in Parliament.
Yes.
For me, I share the view of the minority that this is needless. It is going to create another layer of corruption in our country. To be brutally honest with you, it's going to be another layer of corruption in our country. You know what? The existing arrangements we have in our country, where, okay, these approvals become a conduit where people sit and say that, well, you know you are not supposed to spend X, but if you want me to give you the approval, you have to do the needful. It's going to be another office where political apparatchiks will be placed there for them to ask people to do the needful before their projects are approved. It is needless. There are already existing arrangements in our governance structure that should be able to take care of it. We do not need anything extra before we do this. I think that in as much as we are all worried about the fact that we must take corruption seriously, we do not have to rather create something that will add to cost. Have you asked yourself why government contracts are very expensive? It is because people will have to grace palms of people at different levels before their projects are approved. And we are going to add another layer. It is needless. It is another avenue for people to fleece contractors and add to the cost of running government. Unnecessary.
Okay.
All right. Moro,
Abass,
I think
we have just 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and you
Fifi,
want to have some fun on to the next topic.
Fifi.
We have the next.
Why?
It is a very important.
In all your submission,
it is a very important.
your subject, because I spoke first. Most of your submission was based on the things I said.
What you said.
It was more or less a rebuttal of the things I said. So I think
it
would be fair
on the topic.
on your part. You see, Fifi, in a very mischievous fashion,
oh my
decided
goodness.
to
Why
take some of the
this
things.
This is the second time I'm referring to me as a mischievous person.
When I say,
the propaganda secretary of NDC referring to someone as mischievous.
I was very quiet when I say the economy was in deep crisis. I mean, the economy we inherited from the NPP was a total mess. I think that is an incontrovertible fact. Because for the first time as a country, we have been so fiscally reckless in borrowing that we had been crowded out of the international bond market, right or wrong. We had been crowded out of the international bond market. And the international bond market was one avenue that government used to finance a lot of its flagship projects. In fact, within a period of 8 years, the Baumia-led economic management team borrowed almost $12 billion from the international bond market. The NDC as a party did not have that luxury. So right from the get-go, it means our avenues for financing most of our flagship project was limited. That when I say we inherited a mess, I mean under the NPP, under the IMF program, government was restricted for 3 years from going to raise bond on the domestic market. That was another avenue government could use to finance a flagship closed. Quite apart from that, we inherited an economy that has been rated junk by all the credit rating agencies. It affected investor confidence in our economy and led to a debt overhang of 726 billion from 120 billion. So when I say the economy was in a mess, I'm talking about the.
They don't say it was.
I'm coming, please,
so
please.
Why are you
when I say the economy,
that it's something that happened in the past.
Please allow me.
No,
you see,
please, you do
please
not
allow me
move away from what you said. These are
sometimes it is very troubling. It is very troubling. Fifi Boafo is my friend. When you hear people like Fifi Boafo, who contributed immensely to the suffering of the people. Fifi was the manager of the CEO at Cocoa Board. Look at the mess they created at Cocoa Board. They left us a debt overhang of 32 billion at Cocoa Board. Jute sacks alone, they procured more than $100 million worth of jute sacks, more than we needed as a country. And quite recently, Cocoa Board have had to auction some of the jute sacks in order to even have space to store the cocoa it has procured. You people went for Fifi Boafo as manager of the CEO. You went for a $320 million facility from the African Development Bank to tackle cocoa disease of 156,000 hectares. At the time Fifi Boafo you were living, that money has been fully depleted. Only 40,000 of those hectares have been repaired. And you are taking 700 million of Cocoa Board's money in addition. And these are you disputing that fact? You went for $320 million. I'm coming. You see, you went for a $320 million facility from Cocoa Board to tackle cocoa disease of 153,000 hectares. By the time Fifi and his boss were living, that 320 million had been fully depleted. Only 40,000 hectares had been completed, and they had taken 700 million of Cocoa Board's money on top. So if Cocoa Board is on its knees today, if Cocoa Board is struggling today, it's because of some of the, I don't want to say irresponsible decision Fifi Boafo and his boss took. Now Cocoa Board is saddled with a road contract, a road commitment obligation of 27 billion Ghana cedis. Out of the 27 billion Ghana cedis, 21 billion was done in 3 years, 2019, 2020, 2021. And it was those times they were giving contracts to Wuntumi and Apalu when they were changing names from Puma to Puma under the watch of Fifi Boafo. And these are the new found apostles of good governance. My goodness, I think if we want to talk about the Ghanaian economy and the predicament we are going through now, people like Fifi Boafo are sore to our injury because they are the reasons why we found ourselves in this mess. The NDC government was saddled within the 4 years. Moro, listen to this in statistics. In the next 4 years, the NDC government has been saddled with a debt servicing obligation of 150 billion domestically and $8.7 billion externally. And most of these debt obligations were as a result of the restructuring, where most of these debt obligations that were due to be honored by the Akufo-Addo government was restructured, was front-loaded to 2026, 2020, just to give them fiscal space and burden the incoming government. The government is crawling all this mess that you have created, and you have the guts to come and lecture us about good governance. He made, I'm coming. He made this. He made, I'm coming. I'm coming.
You spoke more than 5 minutes, and it's only fair. It gives me the.
So in rounding up. In rounding up, just keep calm. You see, the NPP all of a sudden, the NPP that has been the architect of the economic mess in which we find ourselves, the NPP that has plunged us into this abyss, cannot all of a sudden reinvent themselves as apostle of prudent economic management. And if we would want to take a lecture on good governance and fiscal prudence, definitely we will not take it from Fifi Boafo and his boss, Joseph Boahiedu, who has plunged Cocoa Board, which has a positive asset of 1.8 billion in 2016 to a negative asset of 3.8 billion in 2024 and budgetary commitment of 32 billion. We will not definitely take economic lectures from Fifi Boafo.
Please use the rest of the 5 minutes so I can bring in my school homecoming people. Yes.
Okay. This conversation is about the challenges government is facing in addressing the issue of wage bill of the country. It is very, very interesting to now become a conversation about Fifi Boafo. Well, no. Please, I listen to you. So this conversation is not about Fifi Boafo. And Fifi Boafo was not chief executive of Cocoa Board. So that's by the side.
So you are distancing.
You
are even not proud of the record of your boss. So now you are even distancing yourself from your record at Cocoa Board.
Discipline yourself.
These are friendly interjections. No, you are my friend. You are my friend.
So he decided
that you are not proud of your record at Cocoa Board. That you are distancing yourself. Okay. He's my friend. He's my friend.
To run away from the issues at Ministry of Finance, government inability to manage the economy such that it takes care of its responsibilities, and now move to some prepared script made up of falsehood as a defense. So let me start with the falsehood he talked about. He says Cocoa Road contract at Cocoa Board is 26 billion. That's a lie.
Commitment obligation at the time that you saddled the...
It is a lie. It's a lie. Allow me to make a point. So you peddle falsehood. Allow me to correct you. That is not correct. Those contracts, government had given an indication that considering the challenges, there was a need for a rescoping. Rescoping had been done, and the commitment is 4 billion. He started here and said...
You said rescoping. So it was after rescoping was done,
would you listen?
Most of the contract that has not been
discipline yourself, Chief Executive.
But you are... Abass, let him tell us what he knows. Please, let him tell us what he knows.
He peddled falsehood. So let me correct him. He talked about the fact that USAS contracts have been awarded. So because of that, yes, something wrong has been done. Anyone who has worked at Cocoa Board will realize that USAS contract takes a period before they are delivered because of the quantities. So the moment you decide to award contract, the year, as in whether 2023, 2024, you have a problem. So the contracts are always awarded ahead of time, such that they will be delivered in time. The people who say that awarding contract to buy USACs for cocoa is wrong, decide rather to buy Land Cruisers for themselves, and they think that that is more prudent management of cocoa funds. These are the people who are talking. These are the people who are talking. And he's talking about prudence and them doing the right thing. For these people, whatever they said when they had power, when they were looking for power, and what they do now that they have power, they are not prepared to be judged by the marking scheme they set. Rather, they decide to go on attacking people and make throwing in complete falsehood as a way of justifying the challenges they face today. The people who said sole sourcing contract was something that was criminal. Today, they are the apostles, they are the people who are awarding sole source contracts. The people who said even tarmac, awarding it on sole sourcing was a problem. Sami Jemfi, his boss, today, he is now awarding sole source contract for people to construct a kitchen. Jade,
which one is that?
What has Sami Jemfi awarded any sole sourcing contract? You see, that is the fallacy the NPP has been going around.
Would you listen? I was here listening to you.
You are now delving into uncharted territory by I'm coming. It's not sole sourcing. It's restricted tendering.
So wait a minute. Are these not the persons who said that easy things that can be awarded?
But it's restricted tendering the same as sole sourcing. No. You have made a false statement
Would you
I-
allow
I
me to make the
expect you
point?
to withdraw.
Are you the
And-
host?
and-
Are you the
Do you,
host?
do you accept that
No, but wait.
sourcing is not the same as fisheries?
I agree.
Yes.
But I'm
So
only
you
making the
admit
point
you
that-
got it
what
wrong.
was- What was the
You got it
standard?
wrong, right?
What was the standard? Please, Nurudeen, I'm not taking
With his
lessons from you.
competitive thing.
Obviously, I won't take a lessons from a propaganda secretary.
Fifi
I will-
is
the
eating
la-
back
the-
his
the
own
last-
words.
The
No.
last thing I will
Allow
do
him.
is to take lessons from a propaganda secretary.
Okay.
I'm
All
not
right.
here to do propaganda.
Okay.
The people who said
Yes.
that awarding
Our
contracts,
time is up.
if you want to avoid corruption, you open it up.
That's fine.
What are they doing today?
That's fine.
Oh, the people who talked about the Japa,